Alex of Barbarian Braid. Goes by the pseudonym of Rex St. Pierre, which I talked about and he talked about last year. So, with all of that said, Alex, thank you for joining me on this fine 2nd of January evening. I don't know what the weather's like up by you, but we got 3 inches of snow today, and I am looking forward to chasing pheasants tomorrow in it. How are things up there? Or
Windy,
over there?
cold, and yeah, we got close to 6 inches. I don't know what they're announcing overnight, but the windy part's what bothers me.
Fair
Cold's
enough.
fine, snow's fine. Wind takes down trees, and then I got to start the generator at the house. That's bad.
Yeah, that makes sense. We don't have a lot of trees here in Iowa. That's part of why it's so windy all the freaking time here. So, anyway, how was 24 for you? Talk to me about your season, how well that went, stuff with Barbarian that's new, different, or changed, or how things are going generally with Barbarian. I'll let you take it from here.
Season was like this. Barbarian's going like this. And the reason why the season's like this is because Barbarian's going like this. Uh, the brand is recognized enough now that it's taking up way more time than I ever thought it would take. Uh, Time and resources, because
Sure.
the success I had last show season, which was this, right, compared to the last couple of years. Every show season's better every year, and I show up with new products. Maybe that's part of the deal. Um, um, yeah, every show season's like that. Success is like that, and all the success is reinvested. But when you're reinvesting success, it means you're constantly in new projects, and new projects take up all your time. Uh, so that means less fishing. And there's some, you know this, as a family man, there's some tasks that are not negotiable, right? So
Exactly.
then there's the full time job, and there's the kids, and my wife's a nurse. So when she's at work at night, I'm at home with the kids. That's not negotiable, right?
Right.
So spare time is jujitsu and the braid. Jujitsu is also not so negotiable because it's my meditation. It's
Sure.
my happy place. It's the place that keeps me sane.
That's fair, dude.
Fighting trained men keeps me sane. Trained men and women. There's quite a few girls now at the jiu-jitsu gym.
That's great. That's awesome.
So yeah, season crappy season. Got one nice fish. My best fish was on opener on a new bait, but a new bait that remains a tool for me and not for you guys, unfortunately. And after that, it was a tough grind. We had 40 Celsius. That's got to be 110 degrees Fahrenheit, 40 Celsius. Just miserably hot. Just
Be close to that.
miserably hot. 105, 110 Fahrenheit. Just terribly hot. So waters were hot. Stormy hot. And who wants to fish in 40 degrees Celsius? I'll go home and do work in the air conditioning, right?
Yep.
And fish don't like it either. The fish like
No.
they like
Especially
75
northern.
degrees. Yeah.
The further north you get, the less those fish like and tolerate warmer
Yeah,
temps.
that's
It's just
right.
how it is.
Yeah. Now there's a morning bite during those terribly hot temperatures, but I'm 2 hours away from the good fishing. It's hard for me to get there before dawn when I'm 2 hours away. when Kyla gets home at 7:30 in the morning, right? So I got to leave here at 8. I get there at 10. Fishing's miserable till 9 at night.
Yep.
Yeah,
I know the struggle. It can be pretty tough at times, and then especially in the summertime, like when we're in Hayward and I've got to just walk down to the boat. It's sometimes difficult to beat the sun up there because you're further north, so the sun rises earlier, and like to get up before the sun, you've got to get up really early. Speaking of someone who's supposed to be in bed, I guess Willow's gonna join us for a second. And yes, Bucko, it's a dark brew. It's a local brewery here. It's a mint stout brewed by
I love dark beers.
It's really good. It's single speed. Yes, thank you, Callie. Single speed. It's a Iowa-based brewery. They're pretty good. I'm not sure what Willow's got going on. She's supposed to be in bed, but I guess we're doing a live together. But so that answers your question, Bucko. Yes, it is very good. If you like mint. If you do not like mint, that is not the beer for you. So I do like mint. Willow does certainly like mint.
Okay, mint. I thought she said it.
No, mint.
I'm like,
Santa was pretty kind on the mint front this year with many different types of icebreakers. So we had a good time with that.
let me see if I'm trying to. I can't see. I got this set up in the cup, and I can't see the comments. It's not a big
Oh,
deal.
I'll try and stay on
You'll
top of
have
it since
to-
you're a little bit further away. Heck, I'm like right here, and half the time I have trouble reading them. So if anyone ever actually watches this live and they see me like get up to it, that's why I'm trying to figure it out. But yeah, it's so okay. So we were talking about different products, newer products, older products. Before we went live, we were talking a little bit about you shipping out some product to a new place recently. So talk to me a little bit about that, because you were curious what these people would even be fishing for down there.
Yeah. So great success for Barbarian of 2024 is the new website. So I started off with a Wix website that I made myself, which was terrible. It looked like it was fraudulent. But now I'm doing the old Shopify thing, and Shopify isn't the same price. Obviously, the website wasn't the same price to create because it had to be done professionally. It was done by Clear Solids, Dave Gray. So now the website, if you're an American, if you're international, right? Shopify has a deal with Canada Post as well as FedEx and Purolator, and they get discounted prices. So whenever you're an American adding a braid into your cart, you can get $10 shipping, $10-$12 shipping Canadian, right? So that's like $8, $7 for you guys.
Dude, that's cheaper. That's cheaper than it costs me to ship baits out from our post office here in town.
How much would it be for you to ship 2 spools to Texas?
Probably $10 minimum. It would depend on how much it would
because
weigh.
it's a third. So shipping to the States isn't that bad. Shipping 1 spool to the States is $10 American. But
it's not bad. That's pretty much what it is here.
If I ship something to Glenn in Northern Ontario, right? He's far. He's 24 hours from me. It would cost me $24 to ship a spool. A spool like this, not letter mail, but look, right, 100 grams. So it's mind blowing how Shopify gets you guys half price on shipping, because they charge you guys what they charge me, and then I collect the entire amount and I pay them back what I owe them in shipping at the end of the month. So now today I packed up 2 spools. They're going to Texas, and it was a spool of 90 pound and a spool of 150 pound gold. So whoever is out there fishing, and that's what we chatted about, is chasing something giant. And it's not muskies. There's no muskies in Texas, right?
No, not to my knowledge. It'd be too far. I mean, even yeah, it's got to be alligator gar, giant flatheads, or saltwater. Those are your options basically in Texas.
In saltwater, it's from what I know about saltwater, whenever they have heavy braid like that, it's something way different than mine. It's hollow braid. I haven't even looked into that. It's a market that I haven't looked into at all. But yeah,
if that's the case, then my money's on alligator.
Makes perfect sense. Perfect sense.
Yeah. Especially because like we were talking beforehand, that 90 pound is perfect for the river. It's not super expensive. It's not like, it's the diameter is a little bit greater than obviously like the 80-pound gold or whatever. But like, if you want something that's super, super strong, that doesn't break the bank, that is like stronger than what it's rated for, and you're trying to chase big river fish and you're just like looking to abuse that line, it's literally the perfect line to do that with.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, alligator gar and giant catfish for sure.
I assume so. Especially if there's a different market for saltwater. I've been like landlocked my whole life, so I know very, very little about saltwater other than this maybe the species that swim there. As far as pursuing them, it's foreign to me, which is sad, but it's just kind of
Yeah,
the consequence of living
another
in
animal.
Iowa.
When you're in muskies, you kind of don't. I don't duck hunt. I deer hunt. I turkey hunt. I moose hunt. I muskie fish. I can't duck hunt. I can't take on another pastime like that.
Sure.
So if you live in Texas, yes, but in Iowa, no. Don't take up ocean fishing.
Well, I mean,
Pay a
that's
guide
it's
or go on a charter or
yeah,
maybe
I mean, it's funny that you say that because like the reason that I don't pursue the larger game here in Iowa is because of the way that the seasons cross over. So like the reason that I duck hunt and pheasant hunt here and goose hunt more than I would in other places, like because I don't really want to shotgun hunt for deer the first week of December because there's literally someone who gets shot every single year without fail in our state.
war zone.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, so I have no interest in doing that. And usually by the time that the migrations are really picking up and the weather's cool enough to pheasant hunt, usually musky fishing is like is the juice worth the squeeze? Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. I mean, you're talking narrow windows, shorter days, like, and it's nice to change it up at that point in time anyways. And to me, there's very few things that are better than like, a grilled duck breast or goose breast, marinated well, done right,
Duck pond.
or yeah. And like I hunt turkeys too, but like the turkey season is so short in Iowa, and usually I only get time to do like one of them. So you're talking like a weekend in April versus the rest of the year. Basically, you either get it done or you don't. Because I'm not. I mean, you can buy a tag for later in the season if you're not successful. Or if you are successful, you can buy a tag for fourth season again. But like, I am not giving up May muskies to chase turkeys around in the woods where the ticks are full on out and all the things. Like, no thanks. I love turkeys. I love turkey hunting, but I'm not giving up May muskies for that. Not happening.
Us, it's it opens the same day as trout fishing, the last weekend of April. So I don't know
Hmm.
why they had to make it on the same weekend. So I try to shoot my turkey the first weekend, or turkeys because we're allowed to,
Hmm.
and then I trout fish.
See,
But
and that's
I didn't. I don't think I even trout fished this year at all. Zero. I didn't hold out at all for Lakers at all.
See, and it's funny too because usually those first couple seasons of turkey, that's on a normal year, that's usually around when the muskies are spawning anyways. Which I mean, obviously, not all muskies spawn at the same time. Not all things happen in the same way. But generally speaking, if most of the fish in your system are going through the motions, then they're not really interested in what you have to offer. So it's actually a good time to be in the woods, in my opinion, for those times. So it's just one of those things where I don't know. It's the worst thing about fall and spring is there's never enough time to take advantage of all of the
Everything.
things that Mother Nature has to offer.
And
So
fall's my favorite season, and I can't be at two places at once, unfortunately.
I'd kill a lot more ducks and geese if I could be. I'll tell you that right now. But yeah.
You're in the boat. You're in the wrong boat.
That's okay. I won't ever trade fall muskie fishing, that's for sure. Okay, so yeah, I mean, so is Texas the furthest that you have shipped your line? Do you know off the top of your head?
I've shipped a whole bunch to Scotland and
Really, dude, that's awesome.
but man, the the shipping and the time it took to get there was scary. It took
I
like two
believe you.
months to get to Scotland. I
How?
think they want products being shipped there, or it's just weird. Uh,
Yeah,
Germany was quicker. Um, Germany was quicker, and there's still like giant pike being caught on that order of braid.
that's
Giant
awesome.
pike.
What are shipping rates over there? If you don't mind me asking, like, what does it cost you to ship a
So
box of line over there?
I mean, the thing is if you ship it by boat, I think I sent 10 spools over there, and I spent over $50 Canadian. And if I wanted to ship it by plane, it would have been like $130 Canadian, right? So
That
so I gave
that
the
checks out.
choice to the buyer, and the buyer said ship by boat, and it took over 6 weeks for him to get his braid. We thought he got
Sure.
robbed. And there's a credibility factor in there and a
Oh
reputation
yeah.
thing. You can't mail shit out and make people wait 6 weeks. 6 weeks. You can't do that. That's
Mhm.
bad business. So, thank God the guy was like open minded and we knew each other through we had known each other for a while through Instagram and Facebook. But
Sure.
the guy knew me, right? He knew he could trust me. But yeah, it's not easy to it's not easy to have retailers internationally. It's a tricky.
Yeah, I get that. The line the shipping rates for literally shipping is not so bad. I mean, most of the time when I ship something north, depending on how much the package weighs to like Canada, it's anywhere between 20 and $25, which means $50 Canadian is about $10 more ish US, which really isn't that bad for as far as you're going. But like the time frame, I understand why that would make you nervous. No doubt
Yeah,
about that.
yeah, yeah.
So like we've talked before about like kind of expanding in your journey, expanding into the American market, and just how difficult and fickle Americans can be at times. And we were kind of talking about this beforehand and kind of so I was curious, like your perspective on some of that as you are kind of working to, we talked about shipping line to Texas and how, your expansion into the South, so to speak, has been kind of interesting.
So I blame myself mostly because if you study you see these pop up everywhere now on shorts, YouTube shorts or Facebook videos or Instagram. So if I did 20 cold calls, I'd get another retailer, right? So if
Hmm.
I started calling every muskie shop, every sturgeon shop, because I got sturgeon line too. There's sturgeon Barbarian 150 pound. It's yellow.
Nice.
Um, so if I start calling every sturgeon shop out west in the states, out west in Canada, if I start calling every muskie shop in Canada, every muskie shop in the states, there's a lot of muskie shops in the states because you guys do way better stocking muskies and we don't stock muskies in Canada, right? So you stock everything. You guys just have a much more sustainable outlook on outdoor sports and activities.
Well,
Uh,
that's true to a point, and I can like touch on that later, but I don't want to throw off your vibe
but
here.
I heard there's more pressure too. I heard you can go out muskie fishing and it's trolling like this, like you know what I mean.
Hmm.
And I'd lose my mind. I'd go fishing somewhere else. I'd give up the big ones to go somewhere where there's less pressure.
I mean, it all just depends on where you're at. Like the pressure dynamic is dependent upon, like for example, in Iowa, there's literally like I think 11 or 12 total musky lakes. One of them had a reintroduction that's like somewhat naturally reproducing, but still supplemental. But the problem is like without that, then there's no musky lakes. And generally speaking, in Iowa, like our fisheries are really good, but they would not be what they are without the help of the DNR. And there's a lot of places in southern Wisconsin that are like that, in southern Minnesota that are like that, that aren't really self-sustaining and are very reliant on the DNR to do the Lord's work. But at the same time, too, it's one of those things where it's helpful that there aren't as many bodies of water because then those resources that come from the DNR from the taxpayer basis then aren't as I shouldn't say they aren't
Right.
strained because they are strained, but those resources are more concentrated because there aren't as many places to put them. In Iowa, there's maybe a couple hundred total bodies of water that the DNR cares for, takes, into account. And granted, we're like like one of the top 5 driest states in the United States, um, which is funny because of all the like green ground that we have. But um, you take that and compare it to Wisconsin or Minnesota, where yeah, there are more sportsmen, there in those places, but it's easier to, spread that pressure out amongst a plethora of bodies of water. Whereas, like here in Iowa, if people want to go target wipers or muskies on a given day, or flathead catfish on a given day, there's only a few places where those things, where wipers are, and usually they're in the same places that muskies are. So you have a lot of like overlap. Same with walleyes. Like a lot of the places where muskies are and wipers are, there's walleyes there, and there's in my corner of the state, it's very hard to get away from those things because there's only so many systems that can support those size of predators, if that makes sense. So, like,
Yeah.
you have a lot of pressure from a lot of different perspectives all happening at once. Sorry, I didn't mean to like completely throw you off there, but I wanted to like supplement the context of what you were talking about.
Yeah. That the predators look for the same ecosystems, and humans want to catch those predators. So,
Yep.
vacation days and weekends can be rough, as well as jet skiers and tubers. Right? There's a lot of those.
Yeah.
My
Well,
favorite.
I fortunately in Iowa, I there are only a handful of musky lakes where you can do any
Okay.
sort of recreation on anyways. Um, and usually when people are doing that anyway, the water temps down here are too
Or two.
warm to fish for muskies, or you shouldn't be fishing for muskies in water temps like that. But a lot of our lakes are no wake or whatever, so you don't really have to worry about the complete and total zoo. And I'm fortunate too in that regard. Like the lake our family cabin is on. Like they have like boating hours
Okay.
that occur on a regular basis, which is really nice because like if the fishing's good, then I mean just fish through it. It's whatever. But if the fishing sucks, then it's like, well,
Let
here
them
comes the
let them
boating
play.
hours. Like
Yeah.
I'll just go in and eat a sandwich and
Yeah.
get back out when the boating hours are over.
Yeah. That's my kind of fishing.
It's
Go
great.
out before breakfast, come in, have a big breakfast, have a nap, go back out after dinner.
That's right. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah. To go back to getting better known in the States. So, yeah, so I could cold call a bunch of stores, and eventually I'd get all kinds of retailers. But it's also my job to build brand loyalty. It's my job to make the brand known to you guys down there. And there's a bunch of states, and there's a bunch of different fisheries, and there's a lot there, right? I'm familiar with Quebec and Ontario because
Hmm.
it's different but similar, right? It's different but similar. But when you go down to the states, huge variety. And perfect example, when I started sending rods down to the states, in my mind, you were 2 hours away from everybody, right? Which is
Hmm.
complete nonsense
Right.
because you could be 2 hours away from someone, but you're likely 12 hours away from someone. And I'm 9 hours away from everybody except for Glenn.
Hmm.
He's except for Northern Ontario, except for Lake of the Woods. Now you're 24 hours away, but that's still, and you're just north of Wisconsin when you're in Lake of the Woods. So you're
Hmm.
you're you're terribly far west, right? But
Yeah.
when I see a guy fishing in Wisconsin, I think he's just beside Vermont, which is nonsense.
No, that's a long
No,
ways
that's
away.
not the same. I think he's just southwest of Vermont. No, that's not it, right? It's like Quebec and Alberta. It's two different worlds. So I need to get out there more, and that's why I'm going to the New York Muskie Expo in an attempt for people to meet more people, because in this day and age, people buy from people, right? So
Hmm.
the best thing that can happen to me is for somebody in the States from Texas to try to braid, and he'll either love it or he won't. And normally they
Sure.
love it. If they're looking for
Yeah.
something big and tough, they found their winning tool. Um, yeah, so I'm not worried about the product. The product speaks for itself. I'm worried about the brand. I need to get the brand out there. And conversations like this are a great way to do it. That's why I never say no
Totally.
to conversation with you, right? That's why I love working with you, and the fact that
Appreciate
you're
it.
on YouTube doing so much work, getting us known down there, us Canadians up here.
I'm trying. I gotta get the river rats. The biggest market for you to expand in my area is the river rats, whether that's the river rat bass fishermen or the river rat
Okay.
cat fishermen. Like it drives me nuts. Like some of these bass guys that will have freaking $90,000 bass boats and go ripping down the river, and they'll pay attention to all these details, and they've got to get all these spots and these sand drops and all this crazy stuff that like all these details, and then they'll have like freaking they'll have their frogging rods spooled up with Power Pro because it's always worked for them, and it's like, I mean, just because it's always worked does not mean that it's always the best option,
Best
and
tool
it's
for the
like
job.
it's like this stuff that just drives me it drives me insane because it's like you do all of these things and account for all of these details, but you don't wanna, like, look
Uh,
into better braids, and especially as much as those the reason I use the river rats as an example is because I've fished a lot of bass tournaments on the Mississippi River, just, like, really good people, incredible anglers, like, just hardcore dudes who really know how to catch fish, and they frog fish all the time, and it's, like, one of the coolest things ever. I mean, it's just some of the, like, areas by the bluffs and that stuff in northeast Iowa and southern Wisconsin. It's crazy stuff, but like I don't know. That one just has always like bugged me. I'm just like venting at this point. And I've given some of my guys that I trust. I've given them your stuff. I gave out I think two spools of the 50. So hopefully they like it. I don't, knowing that it's cheaper to ship now, I'm sure hopefully that they chat and
it,
you know
that
we'll
was a
spread the word.
barrier before. It's not anymore, and it shows in my sales. Every
That's
time
awesome.
I see this weird place, I chuckle. Right? So this guy just typed something on the internet and wound up on my website because I don't really advertise, and I will start advertising. It's step by step, right? Too many projects. The other thing is
Totally.
that you guys have up here. The reason why this braid exists is because up here we had Suffix and Power Pro. And when you went on this was before Cortland was in Canada. We
Okay.
when you went on a forum or a chat or a Facebook group and they started talking about Suffix and Power Pro, nobody was happy
Mhm.
ever. So that was the weak point. And you work with a bunch of companies and you work with a bunch of you work with the best tools you can.
Yeah.
I
Best
started
tools
working
you can
with the
find.
best tools I could, and the weak point of my gear was the braid. So I started working on braid, right? But in the States, you guys have 30, 40 different companies.
This
So
is
you
true.
guys have kind of always had another option, right? So the competition's a lot steeper in the States. And it's a lot easier for me to win the heart of a Canadian because I'm the only option.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
the only
that's
option
fair.
of the braid that doesn't fail. And there's nothing wrong with brand new Power Pro, right? But not all Power Pro is brand new. And not
This is
all
true.
Power Pro will do well at the end of the season. And some braids out there are amazing in the States, but I can't say that about braids in Canada. Or, anyways, when I started working when I made Barbarian available, it's because there was a need. Well, you know this. Every time I come up with something, it's because of a need. The rod was the
Right.
same thing too, right? Before COVID, trolling rods were hard to get in Canada, and once my trolling rods became well known, retailers started hounding me to buy rods just because there had been a shortage of rods. But then Chaos made it into Canada, so Chaos resolved the issue during COVID, right?
Mhm.
But for a while, you couldn't get a Chaos trolling rod in Canada. So a trolling rod, you could get casting rods, couldn't get trolling rods. It was miserable, right?
Hmm.
So I started
Strange, but
working on trolling rods.
interesting.
Yeah, and so braid, tons of competition. So the reason why I'm dabbling with other products is because people come to me and say, "You make the braid, it's bulletproof. You make the rod, it's tough as shit." They're like, "Can you try this?" Or, "Alex, you make baits, make this." Or and that might be the way for me to get known down south, to have that one product pierce through that makes the brand recognizable. Because
Totally.
the competition for braid is so steep. Competition for rods, the same thing. You guys have very good rod companies down there that are established, right?
Totally.
That are visible, because every time you go to a show, you can speak to representatives. You guys have buddies that have been working with these companies for years, so rods wouldn't be the way to pierce in the States either. Right?
Yeah, I totally agree with you on all of those fronts. And like I've heard horror stories about Power Pro. I've never had any issues with it per se. I've had it break off on backlashes. I haven't had that with other lines. Like Cortland, I never had any issues with before I switched to your stuff. But again, just because something is good doesn't mean that there isn't something that's better. Just because there's a standard there doesn't mean that there isn't something better on the market. So like OG Andrews was asking, is Barbarian thicker, soft line Cortland or coarser, thinner like Power Pro? To which I would respond with the OG 90 is more similar to Power Pro in the way that it feels, but it's going to be a thicker diameter. Whereas the 80-pound gold and 50-pound gold are going to be more similar to your Cortland style lines, but with a thinner diameter than Cortland. That said, I don't have the numbers in front of me to actually compare whether or not the diameter is thinner or thicker or whatever. But that's from having fished with those lines, that's what it feels like to me. Feel free to refute if you want.
That's and I'm not going to tell you the dirty secrets of braid. So the 90-pound is rope. The 90-pound is rope. It's thicker than everything, yeah, it's rope, but it doesn't fail. It doesn't break, right? So it's got a diameter of 0.019 inches. So to the eye, it's going to be thicker than any 100-pound braid you hold in your hands. It's marked as 90-pound braid, but it beats Power Pro 100 pounds on a straight pull test. If you tie them together and you pull, Power Pro will break every time. And then the guys. So I had a 110-pound line that I marketed as 90-pound because I didn't know what I was doing. I was new. It's still marketed as 90-pound, but people go nuts because they break leaders, they straighten out hooks, they pull up logs, they pull up anchors. The stories I hear are ridiculous about the 90-pound. It's rope. It's just rope. It's tow rope. It doesn't make any sense. So then I was told, we like your line, but for the love of God, make something thinner. Now, I already knew that 12 strand was thinner and stronger for the diameter because it's weaved tighter and slower. Slower means less friction, less heat, means more strength per diameter, but also means more expensive, right? So when I pierced the market, I didn't want to pierce the market for 150 grand. When I pierced the market, I wanted to pierce the market for a lower amount. And but after I did pierce the market and I had a cash flow, I had the confidence of my supplier. I could look into 12 strand. So the 12 strand is much tighter woven, smaller diameter, and a bit less supple than the 90-pound, only because it's more tightly woven and stronger per diameter. So the 80-pound, my 80-pound is actually a hair thicker than Cortland, a hair, if you measure it with a caliper, because, and I mean like a hair, not even a hair, probably, like if you measure it with a caliper, but you can't really look at the thickness of the line on the box, and you can look at my thickness because I just write what it is. But you can't look at every box of braid and think that thickness will correspond to the same thickness of another braid on your reel. Now, does it really matter? No. Just make sure your spool is full and you'll be fine. So I would say the difference between my braid and the other braids mentioned is more supple, no break-in period. It doesn't lose its color. It won't make your fingers whatever color the braid is.
That's a nice feature.
But some guys hate that. And the water retention is not significant, Obviously, the water retention will be more significant as the braid ages, that's the case for every braid, right? So I always tell guys, don't switch out your braid in June, switch out your braid in October. So you've got your new braid for the monster season, right? And you've got new braid so it doesn't suck up that cold water that freezes your hands. So I'd say more supple. Some guys like stiff braid, tightly woven. That's not Barbarian. But I'm not that guy. So I don't know why they love that. Perhaps because they want zero water retention, but I've never seen a braid that doesn't retain water ever. I've heard of braids that retain very little water, that are very stiff, very tightly woven, and they're usually covered with a substance.
Right.
And I don't like it when they're waxy. I don't like my braid waxy. Yeah, so it is a bit different, but the best thing to do is just buy a spool. Like, what's $20? What's $30? And then you'll know. You'll either like it or you don't. It's that simple. And if you love it, you love it. If you don't, you tried it, right? You'll have your opinion. And we mentioned braids breaking. The thing is all brand new braids good, right? They don't make braid coming out of the machine where it breaks. There's quality control, right? In fact, there's quality control, and if they're out of the millions of feet of braid that I've sold, I got one spool back, one of these, one spool back. And the guy said, look, there was a chip in the braid in the middle of the spool. And I sent him back 2 spools. So out of them, I don't know how many spools I sold. One mistake. So all these braid companies, they've got quality control. Now the thing is that heat will destroy your braid. The sun will destroy your braid. Leaving your spool of braid on the dash of your car will destroy your braid. Age will destroy your braid. Bad guides on your rod will destroy your braid. So there's like 30 different factors that just make braid old and sensitive. I tested really good braid. Really good braid. I won't say the brand. 50-pound test. I went I did my pull test with my tools, and it had a 12-pound break strength. 12 pounds. So you're talking about old, bad mono, right? And it was a season old. The braid was a season old. Now, did that person buy it on sale? Had it been sitting on the counter? Did it sit in a warehouse for 3 years? I know where my braid sits, right? But I don't know where. Obviously, a company like Power Pro has way more braids sitting around than I do somewhere, right? A company that is that established and internationally renowned. So brand new braid's usually good stuff, and brand new braid does the job. But make sure you got brand new braid on your reel. That's the catch.
Yeah, totally get that. Yeah, I mean, like, touching on the thing with like the people that I work with, like most of the people that I work with, like, I was using their gear. Like, you are probably one of the only ones that like just sent me stuff and I was like, sure, I'll use it. Versus like before I worked with Chaos, I used all their stuff before I ever worked with them. Before I worked with like PC Fun, I was using their reels before I ever worked with them. Like the list goes on and on. Like, and yeah, it's the stuff that I use it because I have faith in it, and I have faith that it's gonna get the job done and do what needs to be done. If I didn't, I wouldn't use it. And if I didn't think it was gonna do the job, then I just wouldn't use it in the first place. So, like,
And it's
or like,
musky. We can't take chances like that with muskies. The odds are stacked against us to start with. We can't take chances.
like I was saying to Thatcher, I don't know if it was Thatcher or Brady, we were talking earlier this week, and it's like, a really good day of muskie fishing, you're getting like 5 shots. Like, that's a really good day. And that's not even like 5 hookups. That's like maybe you have one come in hot in the 8 and it peels off for some unknown reason. Or you have one that swings and misses your lure for whatever stupid reason
Or one
because
that
like
comes up like this.
yeah, just like like basically tries too hard to eat the bait. Like those are variables that you can't control, but there's still shots at fish that like you can't physically collect on those fish, but it still counts as a shot because that fish tried to eat, it tried to do its thing, and something just didn't work out. So, I guess my point is that even on a really good day, you might not even get hooks in fish that many times, even if you have that many shots. So, yeah, there's no room for error in the sport. That's just kind of the nature of the beast.
I learned that from a buddy of mine who's a guide out west. He goes 7 miles up the Rockies to fish for bull trout and cutthroat,
Nice.
and his patience with gear is negative. If something doesn't do exactly what he bought it for, garbage. Price doesn't matter, right?
Hmm.
He's decked out in down clothes, not even Gore-Tex, down. The down gets wet and it dries off, right? Gore-Tex does not do the job for him. Craziest thing. And top of it, and also because of his clients and the price he charges, he's expected to offer the best fly rod. And
Sure.
best fly rods usually come with the best warranty. So the best tool for the job, right? And he's fishing
Hmm.
for trophies and offering Ernest Hemingway trophy trips to multimillionaire Americans. There's more money in the
Sure.
States than there is in Canada. That's a simple fact. So,
Right.
and for us, it's the same thing. We're going out so many days a week, so many hours, and the chances we get are so few and far between. We can't afford to take chances if our goal is success and results, right?
Hmm.
That's the
Yep.
point of all these toys that we keep collecting and or buying, using, creating. That's the whole reason for the entire muskie market.
Yeah, I would agree. So speaking of toys, let's talk about some of the new ones that Barbarian is potentially offering for this show season. There's a couple that we touched on before, a couple that I have in my boxes, for example. But I'm kind of curious what your input is, being the inspiration behind a couple of these.
So at the shows, I'll have trolling rods. Too bad they're not in yet. The casting rods are in the truck on the way to my house. I could have shown you guys the new 10-foot telescopic casting rod. That would have been madness. But again, hard to ship those in the States. It's
Right.
hard to ship those in the States. I can get them there, but it's tricky stuff. You got to stick them in a tube. Tube's got to be all taped up, right? It's not impossible, but it's tricky. So trolling rods, casting rods this year at the shows. I'm not sure I'm going to have rods at the New York Muskie Expo yet, but I know I'll have braid and I'll have some new baits. So I'll have all the braid options as per usual, and I'll show you guys the 3 new things, and I'll leave the best for last. Build some suspense, and you guys are going
All
to
right.
see it. Okay, first thing. What color do I want to pick here? And we'll go with the strawberry. We'll go black.
Oh, nice.
We'll go perch. And we'll go black and orange. Okay, so this is the Barbarian Piranha. It's a 4-ounce Vibe bait. So that's stainless steel construction with a lead bottom. So any Vibe bait you guys have fished for bass or for walleye, same principle. Now, these work. They're the happiest the faster you go. You know when you guys work vibe baits, you're casting at the bottom and you're pumping up and then you get that vibration? Well, these
Hmm.
like being trolled 4, 5, 6 miles an hour. They like being reeled in as fast as you can. I hooked a fish at the beginning of the season trolling this thing. Caught a fish in that 40-degree weather, 110-degree weather in August. And then that same day, we hadn't caught any fish all day. We decided to go park in a giant flat. It was a bay, giant flat. You could cast 300 yards everywhere, just a giant 10-foot flat, weeds popping up everywhere. And I was casting this just incredible distances and just reeling my brains out. And I hooked
Hmm.
a pike, lost a muskie boat side, and got a muskie in the net. So for the few hours that I fished this thing this summer, it got the results that I wanted, and it got the results that I wanted in times where the fish were seemingly off. But so the key with this thing is speed. So here's a black and orange. These are 3 that I'll have at the New York at Muskie Expo, and I'll end up bringing some of these to the Odyssey too. I'll bring leftovers and or I'll paint some more. The blanks come in black and in white. So from the black and the white, we get a little perch, and then post the video of this. I painted this, and my kids also painted a strawberry each, and then we get the strawberry. So 4-ounce bait, you can cast it for miles. It's got glass eyes.
How come you didn't offer me the strawberry with the Sauron eyes? I'm a little upset by that.
At the beginning of the year, before anybody knew about this bait, before it had put fish in the net, I painted a couple, and I sent you a picture, and I gave you a pick, right? So you would have picked the ones that you liked the most out of that picture. And the reason is because I don't want you to have a color you don't like. I want you to pick a color that you love. But yeah, the strawberry is pretty spectacular, and that's a creation.
Good looking baby.
Yeah, so it looks great. But the black and orange is the old tried and true.
Totally.
The one that got the bites at the beginning of the year was white chartreuse. The one that got the bites, and because it was stained water, the one that got the bites mid-year in those terrible hot days was the old trusted black and orange in blue water. So terrible day with 0 action. You go with the old tried and true, the old black and orange. So we got the Barbarian Piranha. Those will go for. I'm not sure. I got to check the exchange rates. They're $50 Canadian, anyways. They're not on my website, so I need to. I need to wait to do the show season before they go on my website. Right now on the website, I've got braid, and I've got that super new edition that I'm going to show number 3. So number 2, and
it'd be like $36 US.
Okay. I'll show you a couple paint patterns too. So this here is a crazy crank. That's the funnest bait I casted all summer. Funnest bait for me at 2024. Cedar bait, 8 inches long. This bait here was designed by Don Schwartz. That's Bone Saw Don. So I should pull out a bone saw just to show off.
No.
I'll be back in 3 seconds. It's on the wall here.
Well, I mean, that's probably as good a place as any for it based on the demand, you know. Bone Saw Don. Yeah, the crazy crank's cool. They're very, very erratic. There will be a time and a place for those here. And I'm going to guess that time and a place will be largely when the weeds are up high and working over super thick weeds.
So here's the bone saw here, right? Probably the most infamous topwater in the history of muskie fishing.
It's probably fair.
Bone Saw Don is an engineer. He's a pilot. He repairs, like he's a genius. Repairs planes for fun and hops in them and goes and tests his repair, right? So this is his design. And he has a cottage on Lake of the Woods. And he's an older gentleman. And he built a bait that's fun to cast for an older gentleman. Very light bait. It's under 3 ounces. Obviously, that's not something you're going to cast with the 90-pound OG, right? That's something you're going to cast with the 80-pound. That's something you're going to cast with your blade rod or your swim bait rod. It's got weight in it. I'm not going to tell you where, right? And if you notice, it only has 2 hooks.
Mm-hmm.
So the weight sits far behind, hence the reason why it casts so nicely. It's got a pinned lip. Some are pinned, double pinned through the lip like this, but lately I've decided to pin the lip with the screw eye. The screw eye is over 2 inches long. And this accounted for all the casting fish between 3 guys on our opening trip this year. Yeah. So this Johnny Dadson gave me this, and he said, Alex, we're going to work with Don. And I wasn't sure why, because the bait just looks like a little crank, right? But then you cast it and reel it in, and you jerk it a couple times, and you understand. It was designed by an engineer that is not just an average engineer. He's a particularly impressive engineer that loves fiddling with baits, right? So, yeah, so that's a new product. But again, not available for retail until after show season, only available for show season, and not on my website. So this is a show season newbie. So we've got
the crazy crank is nuts. I've run mine a few times. I ran it this fall some and realized that I was like, this is not the time that I need to be running this on my bodies of water. That's not to say that it wouldn't work in the fall. It's just like with where our fish set up and like where the water column in which you're fishing those fish, where they're set up. It's just not that. It's just not the tool for the job. That's not to say that it wouldn't work, but like I think that there are better tools to use at that point in time. Now for spring, when fish set up in a certain way, yeah, I think that will be huge.
So this, it's a shallower running bait, trolled behind the boat 3 feet deep, reeled into the boat probably 2 feet deep.
Yeah, that's about right.
Jerked 1.5 feet, floats up. Yep. Jerk, almost 2 feet, floats up. I love dive and rise. I love jerking the crap out of baits. So that's why that's why it's my funnest bait of 2024. But you're targeting them much deeper in the fall. And I know you love Ridgeway. So you're the right guy to ask about this. You love your twitch baits. You love twitching and cranking and jerking. And you use these with passion, right?
Oh yeah.
But that's Matt Ridgway's baits. They must dive a lot more than this. Way more.
It depends. Yeah. I mean, and it depends on the type of the weeds too. Like there are some weeds that Ridgway's baits do really well in, and you can just freaking rip them right through that stuff, and it's totally fine. And there are other weeds where they get really bogged down in them, and it's just like I don't know why or what is the case. But in situations where his baits would get bogged down, I think that the crazy crank will excel in those types of situations just because it's a lighter crank that doesn't run quite as deep. Some of Matt's baits, it just kind of depends on the bait. Cause like, as you know, being a bait maker, especially with your taxman, which if you want to talk about that, feel free, but like, or not, that's totally your prerogative. But my point with that is, that wood is far from consistent and you cannot control that. So it's kind of the same thing with Ridgway's baits. Like, the first 10-incher that I own from him has like over 30 fish on it. Some of his other ones have several fish on them, but like, I don't know what it is about that first one. It just is like the one. But like they all catch. It's just, they're just not all created equal when it comes to wood. And like he messes with the pitch of the bill sometimes too. So that can affect things somewhat as well. Because there for a while he was running the pitch to make him run a little bit deeper, which is really good sometimes for fishing those deeper breaks. But then there's sometimes too where I want to fish like shallow and shallower weeds and just like beat that thing off of stuff. And so I don't know. I mean, generally speaking,
magic, Matt. Don't think into it too much. It's black magic. But yeah, as a general rule, there's not one tree that's made the same. So
yeah, I mean,
totally. A blank with a knot in it, or a blank with no knots, or a blank with weakness, or a blank with no weakness, or a blank with 4% humidity, or a blank with 8% humidity. It depends how you assembled it. It depends on the epoxy you put in it.
Right.
Depends. Through wires, it's screw eyes. It depends. Yeah, it's black magic. There's ways to be consistent, and Matt is consistent. He's consistent.
He is.
But
Yeah,
and the other thing is we're fooled by coincidence, eh? You use that bait and you've caught 30 fish on it. And then you try another bait and it's like, it's a tough day, the fish are off. And you use it for an hour and a half, you put it aside and use the other bait for the other 6 hours. Well, if you use that first bait for the next 6 hours, you probably would have caught the same fish. So we don't catch enough muskies to establish exact correlations that are statistically significant. Right. We're constantly fooled by coincidence. Yeah.
That's just the nature of the beast.
And what do you want me to tell you, right? If you love that one Ridgeway bait, then you're going to love it forever. And if you hate another, you're going to hate it forever. Sell it to somebody.
The bad news with that one is the lip is starting to get a little wiggly on it. And that one runs a little shallower than most. I might have to see if he can fix it. I noticed it this fall. I was running it some, and I was like, I'm gonna stop running that because I don't want it to break.
I could lie to you and tell you when he fixes it, it's going to be the same bait as it's always been. Right?
Well, it's been.
It could be better though. That's the thing. It could be better. I've done that before. I've destroyed an amazing bait, fixed it, and it became better. The 52.5 became a 53.5. Like it's madness.
Doesn't suck.
But so you're all shy and you're all worried about destroying your real runner, and it turns out it's still a real runner. But by coincidence, I haven't caught 75 53s in my life, right? I caught one.
Right. Exactly.
One, but I caught one. Final tool. Everybody needs 2 of these. Why? Because I made them so you have to buy 2. So when you lose one, you still have another one.
Okay.
Barbarian fork. And you guys laugh, but you're going to love this. You have one of these yet? I sent you one of those, didn't I?
You sent me one, and I was like, I don't know what the heck this thing is.
See, you should have
I have a better idea now.
You should have asked. Now, grab that Ridgeway. Grab that Ridgeway that you don't laughing runs perfectly, right? So, can you guys see this? It's a piece of brass, a machined piece of brass, right? Nice little Barbarian sticker on it. One hole is wider and it's made for screw eyes. One hole is narrow. One slit is narrower, is made for wire.
Through wire.
Wire. Okay. If you're reeling in a bait or trolling a bait and the bait keeps kicking out, you could use pliers and you could swear, because pliers are not a precise tool. I'm glad I found that word quick. Okay. Or you could use a tuner. So bait's kicking out like this. You're going to grab the screw eye and you're just going to tweak it the opposite way. A little tiny bit. Right? You're going to try it again. You're going to reel it to the boat as fast as you want, because you want it to run straight. Or you're going to hold it beside the boat while trolling, not near the prop, because the back of the boat causes turbulence and makes your bait run funny. You got to go to the front of the boat. Let it stick that in the water, and if it doesn't kick out, then pull your rod forward to make it go faster. So go from 4 miles to 6 miles because you're pulling your rod 2 miles away. A bait that is perfectly tuned will run like this at 4 and then run like this at 6. So the wobble will tighten and it'll dive a little bit, right? Same thing, if you're reeling half speed and then you start reeling full speed, that bait that usually wobbles like this because it's nice and tuned will go like this. But if a bait's kicking out, and you can tune rubber, you can tune every twitch, crank, dive and rise you've ever used. If it's running funny, start playing with the nose pull and make it run the way you want it to run. I use this on Bucko's baits.
Nice.
It runs perfectly. I say perfectly for me.
Right.
I want my dive and rise to do that because that's how I've caught all my fish with dive and rise in the past. And this time I'm not fooled by goddamn coincidence, because I brought that bait to where I knew it was going to get bit, and it got bit twice within hours, right? So I've repeated that multiple times, and the failure rate is non-existent. So at the very least, I'm not scaring fish away with my tuning skills. But this little tool here is worth, I sell for 20 bucks Canadian. I will likely offer it for cheaper at the shows as a show deal, just because everybody needs one of these. Everybody needs one of these. You could do the job with pliers, but pliers are frustrating, and this is satisfying. Silliest little tool, but as a troller, and as a precise troller late fall that needs to put the bait within a foot of the fish's face, so the bait 19 feet down in 20 feet of water, 23 feet down in 24 feet of water, this is a non-negotiable, right? And when a bait has a lip that's this long, it gets finicky. When a bait has a lip that's a diamond shape, it gets finicky. Some baits don't have any weight in them. They're much more finicky. You absolutely need this for a finicky bait. And even your favorite bait, you can hook a fish with it, put the fish in the net. Fish will get angry in the net. That's where the most torque is applied to every bait in existence. And the fish will bend that nose pull, put that bait out of tune, and you basically have a useless bait compared to that puller, that money bait that you had 15 minutes ago, right? And you can fix it with a $20 piece of brass.
Yep, I need to put mine with my like go bag. I have one. I gotta figure out where I set it.
Tape it to a lanyard, because you will lose it.
Well, my like go bag that I always take, I call it my go bag, but it's just my box of lures that I change out rotationally, seasonally, and it like sits there in the bottom of my boat, or I take it to other places, and it's like got the baits that I want to use at that moment, at that season, and it's like right there, so I don't have to dig, I don't have to do anything. So it would sit on the top of that. There's a good little section there. So shout out Trevor Olson for giving me that tackle bag like freaking 6 years ago, and I use the shit out of it always. It's just
that's I got one box. I do the same thing, and it gets annoying because I fish stained water and blue water.
Yep.
So
same.
I
Well,
have two
not blue
boxes
water
with
like
some
what you
baits
guys
I
said.
want in both situations. I saw Connor ask the question. He said, "Has anyone caught a piranha with a piranha yet?" The answer is no, right? So,
well, Connor is going to be taking some of your stuff way south.
He might be the first one, but this is my attempt at painting an actual piranha.
That looks like money. I want that
black, one. What are they? Forget what the name is, but it's got the black tail. It's got the little black ridge beside the gills. It's got the hot orange belly and the gold back.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's just like, to me, I think that's just standard piranha, but I don't know what the actual species is. But that one looks awesome. But yeah, Connor, I think I'm gonna send my piranha with him down south, and if it gets destroyed, it gets destroyed in the Amazon. And I know a guy, so I should probably have no problem getting a better one.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's gonna be taking your line to test that against some of the biggest, baddest fish that swim. Like hopefully arapaima, hopefully the piracus, some of that, the craziest river fish that swim. So I'm excited to see what he can do with that stuff. That was part of why I was asking if the crazy crank was resin or not, because if it wasn't, or if it was, I was going to send mine with him, knowing that.
Yeah, you should still have one, and it'll get chewed. Who cares? That's what baits are for.
No, I mean, yeah, but I think that the bigger issue for some of those baits down there is like just the amount of chewage that the wood just doesn't hold up the same way, because it's like, instead of 1 or 2 or 3 bites in a good day, it's like hundreds.
Yeah, we wait an entire season for a bait to get bit 5 times.
Yeah,
That's gonna
no
happen
kidding.
one day for him. If he's having a good day.
Yeah, I think he and I were talking about it, and I think they recommended against using or bringing wood baits, like
Okay.
because
Okay.
we were talking about like sending ridgeways and all kinds of stuff down with him, and he's like, no, they say don't send anything that's wood
Okay.
because it just gets chewed too fast.
And
Um,
even resin gets chewed too. It's just it gets punctured without
it
getting
does.
torn apart. But resin, one barracuda shot on a resin bait is full of teeth holes. But,
Yeah, I mean,
um,
my first SRJ is just so worn. The problem, like, it's got probably over 20 fish on it, and I don't even know how many pike. I don't know how many times that stupid thing fed us in the Northwoods, but it was a lot. And the problem that it becomes is as that resin gets worn in, it's just more spots for those hooks to catch on the resin
okay.
versus the epoxy thing, which
Okay.
I know you can fix those things, but at the same time, it's like, well, okay, now I got to fix it, and then I got to fix the fix, and then it's like, at what point is we just got to be done with trying to do this over and over and
Just
over?
find another bait. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's
yeah.
where that one's at, basically.
The Connor's got his work cut out for him because as of last summer, the biggest fish caught on Barbarian 150 is a 12-foot long stingray.
Oh
And
shoot!
and the biggest fish caught on 80-pound gold is a 5 or 6 foot shark. So the braid holds up. We're talking about ocean fishing.
Yeah,
The braid holds up. Jimmy
yeah.
Lacerte out of Quebec took that stuff down south and tested it against everything. Right. Yes, it's tough. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of the braid holding up in the. It's the Amazon he's going in.
Yeah, I don't know specifically where, but yeah,
And he showed me
he's
his
going to have the
gear too, and
biggest
I
shitback
googled
swings.
and everything, and it'll work out fine. It's a good match. It's a good match.
No, I totally agree. When he was texting me about it at first, I was like, you got to get on the same page as Alex and get some of that stuff because there's nothing better to take with you. Wait, what was the third thing? Was the third thing
Yeah, it was the tuner. It was
the
the
tuner?
tuner.
Okay,
The
okay.
two
I just
baits
wanted to make sure.
and see, and I can't. I don't know how to like I can't tell you guys. That's my proudest product of 2024. I don't have the rods in my hands yet. Like a 10-foot 3 casting rod is going to be pretty goddamn cool, but it's harder to convince someone to buy a 10-foot 3 casting rod if they already have 6.
Sure.
And the price point's not the same, right? But
So what are your price
Canadian,
points for the
you will
rods?
not spend a better $20 Canadian this year if you want your baits to run straight, right? If you own, even if you're fishing swim baits all the time, those will get bit, go in the net, get bent, and be all whacked out, right? You need that to bring. Well, you need that or pliers to bring it back, but that makes it fun. Just a little. But for trollers, it's a must. For trollers,
yeah, I get that.
Every great troller is particularly good at tuning baits. If you don't, you're missing out because there's a bunch of baits in your boat that would do much better if they were tuned.
What are your rods? What do you because you have your trolling rods and then now you've got your casting. What do you offer those in Canadian dollars? I'm not asking you to make the conversion,
So
but
yeah, this 8-foot 1-piece trolling rod, the Barbarian Spear, with the machined aluminum reel seat, stainless steel guides, and a composite blank that has fiberglass in it, make it tough. So I still have these 8-foot, and I have I've been fishing a 9-foot for 2 years, and the 9-foot works fantastic, but people don't really want a 9 foot trolling rod. Like 90% of people want an 8 foot trolling rod. There is that 9 foot still fits in your truck.
Mhm.
9 foot still fits in your car. 9 foot six gets tricky in some vehicles, but people just want 8 foot. I don't know if just convenience, I guess, right? People don't want 7 foot.
Probably.
It's a bit short. I spent years trolling with 7 foot rod, but then musky rods caught up to the rest of the fishing industry. And then I was fishing a Chaos 8 footer for a long time. I like that rod quite a bit. But I've been fishing Barbarian for years now. And yeah, so I have a 7 foot proto. I have a 9 foot proto. Just people aren't interested. People want to stick to the 8 footer. I'll bet I can get a few guys to get that 9 foot rod just to get their baits a bit further from the boat, or 7 foot rods to jig or to sucker fish or to have a down rod behind the boat. But everybody is satisfied with the 8 footer. It's the weirdest thing. So, and I might be completely off. It might be guys in my surroundings that can touch me and my rod, right? Touch the rod for that want the 8 footers. There might be guys down south trolling 10 rods wide that need specific rods with a much greater variety. The next rod coming in is a 10 foot 3 telescopic blade and swim bait rod, casting rod. It's got a full cork handle. It's got titanium plated guides. What else? It's got the Fuji palm support reel seat. And that one's obviously a carbon blank, right? There's no fiberglass in casting rods.
Mhm.
And I've been fishing that one for 2 years. And I really like it. I've got another buddy that's been fishing it for 2 years, and he made it a point to kind of beat on it a little bit, or beat on it a lot. That's just how he treats his gear. And he was surprised by how it just did a great job. And him and it was our first 10 foot rods, so we appreciate the length, and it can be broken down to 8 foot 3. So at 8 foot
nice.
3, it still fits everywhere. The price point will be. I still need to figure out an exact price point because I still need to figure out my landed cost, and that's an accounting afternoon. But I have a pretty good idea, and I think it'll be around $340 Canadian. $340 Canadian. So
250-ish US.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it'd be a little bit more, 270 US.
Yeah, it's 70 cents to the Canadian dollar.
Yeah.
So
I'm not a math teacher. You're better. You're better with your job at the quick maths, Alex.
Yeah, so 210. No, it'll be under 250. It'll be under 250 US.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. I mean, that's like right competitive with basically all the higher end stuff here, anyways.
Well,
And probably
high end is
more so.
Legend tournaments and Chaos 2020s. I'm not up there, right? They're in the $600 US range.
No, not the 2020s. The 2020s are three. I want to say 380 to 400, depending on your options.
Okay.
It depends on the seat.
The price in Canada is very different, eh?
I guess so. Yeah.
I checked when I did my
the legend tournaments. You're right on
prices. So there's always a bit of a markup to get it across the border, duty and.
Yeah, the legend tournaments are more expensive than the Chaos 2020s.
Okay.
And in my opinion, I don't like them nearly as much from what I've seen, just because I feel like even before I ever worked with Chaos, before I did anything with Chaos, I used a lot of Croys, bass fishing, and those kinds of things. And this isn't like an indictment to Croy specifically, but just like I feel like their rods are underrated for their load. Whether it's their bass rods, their musky rods, or whatever. If you're getting an extra heavy, you better just plan on it being a heavy action. If you're getting an extra heavy, you better plan on it being an extra heavy. That's just been my experience with St. Croix. Now, if that is like what you want, then that's what you get, then that's totally fine. Like, no worries there. But that's just been my experience with them, and I would be lying if I said that there weren't times in my past with bass fishing and even using some of their Mojo series before I was working with Chaos where that action was not what I wanted
Not enough
or
for
what
the
was
application.
advertised.
Yeah. So the action was a big deal, right? And I had to pick one because I wasn't going to get the X heavy, the XX heavy, the heavy, and so on and so forth. And I went for X heavy, 4 to 14 ounce. It says 4 ounce, but you can cast 2-3 ounces with it. You just need the right reel.
Right.
You need a forgiving reel to cast lures that are so light. But yeah, it's very similar bends to a Chaos casting extra heavy rod. So it's a
Totally.
it's going to be a blade and swim bait rod. So it's not comparable to a rubber rod. It's not an XX heavy. I don't like XX heavy, but again, I might be fooled by coincidence. I like a rod that when a fish, a fresh spring fish that's nearing 30 pounds, right over 50 inches, is boat side, when he decides to go psychotic, I want him to fight my X heavy rod, not my pool cue. Now, you give up a little bit of hook setting power, but I'm hoping I can make up for that by fishing blades. All there is wire and hooks, and I sharpen my hooks. I hope I can make up for that by fishing a crazy crank. All there is a tiny little profile with hooks, right? I'm not fishing a pounder opening week. I'm not fishing pounders ever, actually. Maybe I should, but I just don't. But that being said, I do have a prototype XX heavy coming because if I decide to fish big rubber, I'm going to want to be using my 10-foot 3 telescopic XX heavy. Just to say I have another. Prototype on the cooker. There's too many prototypes, but I always pick the one that's going to sell because the goal is to grow, right? The goal is not to pile up inventory. That's not my game. My game is to get good stuff out there in people's hands after they ask me for something specific.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. And like honestly, for rubber / like big jerkbait rods, and I'm talking like what I use for my Ridgeways, for the top line XLs, those types of things. I like the 9-foots just because it's not as much rod that you're moving for heavy rubber when you're working it. I do like the longer rods for bucktail swim baits, those kinds of things, horizontal presentations where bigger figure eights are key. I feel like on those pull pause kind of lures, you can kind of pendulum it out a little bit so you get a little bit more swing with the lure generally because you're not like just ripping it into a figure eight. But maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe that's not me. But I would agree with OG Andrews. The Stealths and Chaos 2020s right around 400ish. Good rods for the price point, no doubt. So yeah, I mean, if you're in that point, then that's definitely competitive. But anyway, dude, what shows, as we're kind of winding down here, what shows are you going to be at this season, and then kind of run down the stuff that you're going to have there for people.
For sure, the New York Muskie Expo. That's February 1st and 2nd in Chautauqua. And for sure, the Muskie Odyssey. That's going to be in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
How do I not know this? And that's
I wouldn't.
March 12th. Guys, I don't need to tell guys when the Odyssey is. Everybody will find out what it is. It'll be advertised
Yeah.
on Facebook.
That's very true.
And I'd like to have casting rods, trolling rods, BKK hooks, owner hooks, 180 spools of 50 pound, 80 pound, 90 pound, 150 pound, 1,000 yard spools of 80 pound, 90 pound, 150 pound, and 50 pound. And at the shows, usually you're getting the best prices all year. Usually there's one big show special, and usually you're looking at 10% off, and it's no tax and no shipping.
Right.
I swallow the tax and no shipping because you're in tax in Canada anyways, because you guys are grabbing it in hand. I'm gonna have some piranhas. I'm gonna have some crazy cranks. There will not be a tax man. There might be one on display, but there won't be one.
One to go home with anybody.
Yeah, I might have some 1/2 inch and some 9/16, 200 and 300 pound split rings. Usually people last year the big seller was the BKK hooks and the trolling rods and the tuner. And I'm going to figure out a show price for the tuner so that every time I sell a crazy crank, like get a tuner, crazy crank tuner, crazy crank tuner.
There you go.
Tuner. You're not getting a rod, get a tuner. What else? I don't think. Oh, I wanted to say. I'm as a bait maker. It's weird, but I have close relationships with a lot of competitors, a lot of other bait makers.
Sure.
Because with all these suppliers, I have access to weird little accessories like split rings, like hooks, like I have I have a guy that's making for me right now all my my hook hangers for my wire through taxmans, right?
Right.
So every bait you see, some guy sat down and bent wires into 2 loops so that you can stick it under the bait and then run the wire through, right? That's a hell of a job. Destroys your fingers. But I got a guy to make some of those for me, right? So any bait makers that are looking for hardware or accessories, I likely have some that I can sell you, or have a guy I can refer you to, or have a guy that can refer you to a guy. So I think
Totally.
Bubba was looking for lips. I think he ended up finding his own lip guy, but I gave him Adam Mueller's lip guy.
Sure.
Right? So we're all Americans, Canadians that compete at the shows for everybody's spending money, but that end up all working together to make the best baits out there, and to be able to offer them to you guys for a reasonable price. So yeah, and if you guys want to get a hold of me, Rex St. Pierre on Instagram, or Barbarian Braid on Instagram, or Rex St. Pierre on Facebook, or Barbarian Braid on Facebook. And then if you guys are particularly interested in the new products, or in some online sales, you can join Barbarian Tough as Shit on Facebook. That's the private group where you guys learn about everything. How many months ahead of time, Matt? How long ahead of time does everybody learn stuff on Tough as Shit?
At least 4, if not more than that. And I'll post this to the group at some point as well, so those who didn't catch it live can watch it then.
And if you're in the Tough as Shit group, you're my what do you call it? My control group.
Right.
When I had plans and a supply. I also have tracks coming out, boat tracks. So 4-foot long boat tracks that you guys can cut in whatever length you want, and I have the little stoppers too. So if you buy a 4-foot length and you cut it in 3, you can have 3 16-inch lengths. Have 1 at the front of your boat, 2 at the back, depending if you're sucker fishing at the front, and then you could buy the stoppers, and you could have 6 stoppers. So for the price of 1 track, you can have 3 tracks, but you need the saw to cut it. So I had a guy. I had a prototype rod holder ready. It was time to give the manufacturer money, right? And then I get on the group. I'm like, how many of you guys want rod holders? How many of you guys want a 10'3" casting rod? Everybody said 10'3" casting rod. I'm like, I got a chunk of money here. It can only go one place, and I went for the casting rod, right? And
There you go.
I'm happy because the casting rod is a fun tool. It's a great tool. I don't have to bend over to do figure eights anymore.
There you go.
41 years old. I can save my back and go destroy it at jiu-jitsu instead.
There you go. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on tonight. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it. I'll link all the stuff below as always. And as always, a pleasure talking with you, Alex. I appreciate the support more than you'll ever know. So thank you so much, dude. Good luck at the shows this season, and I'm sure we'll be in touch plenty. But with that said, have a wonderful night, dude, and thank you.
Thank you too, Matt. And we appreciate you and all the work you do and all that fun stuff you show us on YouTube.
Thanks, man.
I was telling Kyle that tonight. I was chuckling, and I don't even know who it was. I'm like, there's this kid, and he's fishing with a guide on Green Bay, and the kid's not teaching me anything, but this kid's funny as shit. So like, you guys on YouTube, you're actually giving us what we want. They don't cut anymore. It's a 20-minute long advertising with commercials. It's like, and then you turn on YouTube if you want to see crappie fishing, muskie fishing. If you want to see you about
That's right.
It's all there, right? If I want to see you and Skate trying to catch the biggest muskies in Wisconsin, it's all there. So yeah, so thanks a bunch for what you do, my friend.
Hell yeah, dude. Thank you so much. I will I'll catch you soon, and take care. Have a wonderful evening, and yeah, try not to work too hard with all the stuff. I know you got a lot of irons in the fire.
Thanks so much, Matt. Have a great one.
You too, dude. Later, man.